Welcome to another episode of Phantom Zoned, the podcast where we dredge the lakes of hell in search of the worst the cinematic world has to offer. And then after watching the movies, we put them on trial for their various crimes against humanity. And should a film be found guilty, then we jettison it into the far, far reaches of space, a Phantom Zone, if you will. I'm your host, Adrian Torres, and joining me always is my good rock'em sock'em kickboxing pal, Scott Daly. How are we doing, Scott?
I'm doing good, Adrian. I have this great idea for a new sport, and it involves wrapping everything in barbed wire and then pushing each other into it.
That sounds vaguely like the 90s hardcore matches in wrestling.
I wouldn't know.
Seriously, if you get a chance to look up online, I mean, you can go on YouTube, or you can, I think like WWE gives people like 3 free months because they know that way too many people already pay for it. So like, here you go. You want half a year? Go ahead, try it. Or don't. We don't care. We have enough money.
As Phantom Zoned alumni will know, I am not very knowledgeable when it comes to wrestling.
What are they called, Scott?
The big mech guys, the giant men.
Giant men. That's what you always refer to them
I
as.
change. You gotta keep it fresh.
If you're over 250 pounds and 6'4", you are a giant man.
Exactly. I don't understand why this is hard to understand. That was
I
not a
don't
good
understand
sentence.
why you're being so like you're putting such a finite corner on their life. Like if you meet an individual that meets those qualifications, do you just go up to them and go, "Are you a wrestler?"
I mean, no, because that's just rude. But behind their back, I will call them a giant man.
Even though we're not talking about wrestling in this episode, we're talking about a movie that deals with the squared circle. So kind of adjacent in a way. There's not wrestling. There is some kicking and there is some boxing. We are talking about, can we call it a fiasco? Like, can we put it on that level? I don't even know if it would, like, if there's a chart that works as a fiasco, depending upon like the amount of people who saw it to what it cost. Because my guess is that it cost like $100,000 and it made 25 cents.
That's a pretty good guess.
That's my guess. It is sitting at a 4.2 on IMDb.
Shockingly high.
With 61 votes. There's the shockingly...
61 people watched this movie.
Yeah, 61 people watched this movie, and it has a 4.2. I will choose at random any other movie I can come across, and I'm actually going to choose from the director's list to the one that I read earlier, because I'm aware of the title of the film. A film called Jungle Rats. Right? Jungle Rats. Dang it, Jungle Rats, I'm very disappointed in you. It has more critic ratings, but it has less people voting on it. So maybe it's this director that he's a... Scott, name a terrible movie from the last 20 years.
The Happening.
Just The Happening. The Happening's too big.
I don't watch... The only time I watch tiny, terrible movies, Adrian, is with you.
With me? Wow. Okay. I'm going to piss some people off here. We are putting in right now Not Quite Human. For those of you who grew up in the late 80s, you don't even know what Not Quite Human is? Well, if you didn't interrupt me, you'd know what it was. Not Quite Human is the first in a trilogy of films that was part of the Disney Presents series, which on Sundays for many, many years, they had The Wonderful World of Disney. Sometimes you would get movies that were put out like through like Touchdown Pictures or Hollywood Pictures or Disney itself or the Disney live action. But in addition to all of those, they would have a whole bunch of original made-for-TV movies. And they had one that proved very popular somehow that they ended up making 2 different sequels. And the movie is called, like I said, Not Quite Human. It stars Alan Thicke. Yes, that Alan Thicke. Canada's Alan Thicke. It stars him as an inventor who creates a humanoid android. like to the point that people can't differentiate with the fact that he's a robot, save for when he opens up his chest and shows, "Hey, I'm a robot." That's the movie that I chose.
How do you know these things?
Because there were three of them. There were three of them. I grew up in the 80s. There were three of these damn things. I had a younger brother, so I would watch it with him.
All of these facts are true for me as well, except for the younger brother part. It was the sister. But I have never heard of this stuff ever.
Did you look it up? If you look at the picture.
I've looked it up. It looks ridiculous.
Okay. They're all ridiculous. It's Not Quite Human, Not Quite Human 2, and then Still Not Quite Human.
Oh, that's a clever twist on that third one.
Well, you want to know about a clever twist, then watch that film, because it is it's atrocious. Like the first two movies are just stupid. And you're like, I'm okay with that. And then in the third one, they're like, oh, we're gonna get meta and try to be quirky, and it's like, no. Listen, you're on at 6 p.m. on a Sunday for people who are not watching football. Do not get coy. To get back on track, Not Quite Human is a TV movie from 1987. Scott's never heard of it. It's got 3 sequels. It has 832 people who have voted for that film, which has it at a 6.2. That's just giving you an idea. This film that Scott's never heard of, even though he was growing up in that period when it would have been on and would have catered to people who were his age, he has no recollection of, has over 10 times as many votes as this film, and yet this film is still under a 5.0.
And more surprise, if you look at the reviews, there's 2 reviews for Blood Ring.
Yes.
One is a 5 stars and one is a 6 stars.
Yes.
And one of them says, believe it or not, this is my first Apollo Cook movie. Me too, because I don't know who that is.
It's everyone's Apollo Cook movie. It's everyone's first. If you watch the trailer, they tell you 5-time world champion. And I'm like, of what?
Certainly not acting.
Kickboxing? And I looked it up, and if you look into it, like, his 5 world titles are for like completely different divisions and aren't just for kickboxing. They're like for several different things.
Like juniors, I think only juniors kickboxing.
No. I mean, like one of them was like a general karate tournament that they had. That it was a one-off, and he won it. He's like, yeah, that's one of them. And then he won like 2 WKA kickboxing champs. And then there was another one where it was like a mixed division that had kickboxing. So he's not exactly a 5-time kickboxing champion. He's a guy who was a kickboxing champion, and then he won other awards and other fighting arenas, basically.
So
it'd be like, yeah, we've got 5-time national champion, whatever a big baseball player is nowadays. And it turns out that 4 of the 5 national championships that he won were in the minor leagues.
Still counts, kind of.
Not the same. And when we're talking about Dale Cook, we're not just talking about Dale Cook. We're talking about Dale Apollo Cook. I don't know why his name is Apollo, unless like he was a big fan of the Rocky series. But in my mind, I'm going to think that he thought that he kicked people upwards so hard that he was going to send them to the moon.
I think he's just really into Greek mythology.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. I forget which one Apollo is, so I apologize. Do you know?
My silence indicates I do not remember either.
I know Apollo's Greek. I don't know shit about him past that. You want to know how much Apollo accidentally sucks? If you put Apollo into Google, the first thing that pops up is a sports car. So not only are we doing a bad job about remembering the Greek god Apollo, so is the internet.
Oh, do you mean Apollo, the god of music, poetry, art, oracles, archery, plague, medicine, sun, light, and knowledge? That Apollo?
Well, Scott, That was amazing. It's almost as if you read that directly off the top description of the Wikipedia picture.
You can't prove that.
I can prove it because I'm staring at it on my screen, and you have the first part of the Wikipedia.
Circumstantial.
The first part of the Wikipedia entry is how to pronounce his name. And it also says, is one of the most important complex of the Olympian deities in classic Greek and Roman religion, Greek and Roman mythology. Do you know what that says to me when I think of those words, Scott?
I need to go back to school.
Kickboxing. So, same difference, I guess. If you find your life at a point where you're thinking, maybe I can be a kickboxer, you should probably follow what Scott said and go back to school.
Yeah. Because it's not going to work out. Because you're going to end up in a blood ring.
No. If you haven't been able to tell, this is going to be a weird episode.
Aren't they all, though?
Scott is staying up late, later than he normally does. I had a hosting gig tonight. It's been a very weird day for me. So my brain's all over the place. We haven't watched this movie in a couple weeks, but when I was thinking about the movie earlier today, and then before we started to record, I can picture it all in my mind. I don't know how that's possible because I've only watched it twice. Maybe that's too many times, but I can relive every moment of this film by getting ready to describe it, because the movie begins with two random dudes punching each other in the face. Not only that, but one of them is dressed as an executioner, and I was very confused why a luchador was punching somebody in the face.
Well, because they're in South America, possibly. Maybe.
I think so. It's made to feel that way, but basically everything in the movie kind of feels like vaguely East LA.
Almost as if that's where it was entirely shot.
But possibly. They're like, you know what? We're going to send these people on a trip. All right, where did they go? Even more far East LA. Location scouting people.
Isn't there like a park in East LA that we can pretend is a forest? Yes.
How many parking garages do we have that are attached to vaguely two different office buildings? Are there at least 7 of those? That's good.
Perfect.
Is there an abandoned hotel that we can partially film at?
Perfect.
Good. That's great. Do you have like the most rundown building that like not even people in Brooklyn or various terrible parts of New York, which isn't to say that Brooklyn's just a part. I'm just thinking about the time when the movie was made and how things were.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that vaguely looks like either a warehouse or an abandoned loft where people go to get strung out on dope and die. Well, let's have our main character live there.
Well, yeah, you got to show how down on his luck he is, because he's got a drinking problem.
Oh, everybody's got a problem in this movie. So we have the guy who's got the executioner's mask, is fighting a guy who's in American flag shorts. So you instantly think, okay, this guy's our hero. This is who we're supposed to cheer for. Well, he ends up trying to win the fight, and does, much to the chagrin of some guy who's sitting at a table. Not like VIP seats. Like he's sitting to a table off on the side.
Yeah, you got to be in the shadows when you're a fight fixer.
Yeah, he's part of like the mob in town. And instead of directly following this guy's story right away, they decide to cut so that we can meet our actual lead of the movie, Mr. Max Rivers. I mean, there's no importance behind his name, but it's just a silly name.
It's a very 90s name.
He's also very much referred to for majority of the film as Max the Wino, because he is an alcoholic. And when I say he is an alcoholic, most people would have died if they lived his life. Not only that, he's the type of person who on his when he's like filling out a resume or an application for a job, even though I don't think he's ever done that in his life, when it gets to the part where it says special skills and hobbies, he puts, I contemplate suicide daily, and then I attempt it. That's your hero of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And the beginning has him in a fight where he's supposed to be throwing it, and he's doing like the worst acting job, to sell it. But it is literally, just a couple minutes into the movie? I want to say like it's 3 or 4 minutes into the movie where we have a Phantom Zone staple. And I knew, this early in the film, that this means that this is our speed. And I think we have a clip for this, Scott.
Right in the ball!
Yes. Right in the balls. And what happens is our lead character, who's supposed to be throwing this fight, moves out of the way at the last second so that his opponent punches this guy straight in the dick. And the only thing that our lead can do is turn his head and then look back at the guy and go, straight in the balls! And then 2 seconds later falls over and grabs his rib and is like, oh, no, I can't go on in the fight. Max is a sad guy. At the same time, the first guy that we saw goes back to his hotel room, knows that he's in trouble because he won the fight that he was supposed to lose in his packing, knows that people are on their way to get him, goes to answer the front door because he knows that somebody has knocked on the door, opens the door, looks at the guy, and goes, "Who are you?" And then starts fighting him. And then when he partially beats up the guy and see other people are coming, he decides to throw himself through the glass sliding door in the back, directly stands up, brushes himself off, and sees the mob boss guy and goes, "Oh, hey, I was coming to see you."
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they did the glass breaking, though. I thought that was probably out of the film's budget to actually break a glass window. But no, they did it.
It's sugar glass, so
yeah,
it doesn't cost a lot. Oh my goodness! So he talks to the mob boss, and the mob boss says, "Hey, guess what? You know what? I'm going to forgive everything if you can beat me in a fight, because this is the early '90s direct-to-video, and you needed to have a fight like every 10 minutes.
Yeah,
if you weren't going to have sex in the film,
it's like the old sitcom rule where there needs to be a joke on every page, but this time it's stupid fights with bad sound effects.
Yes. He gets killed by a triple slow motion jab to the windpipe. It's like a forearm to the windpipe, but it doesn't even look like it's done with enough force to kill him instantly.
Yeah, so, I didn't, for the longest time, I didn't think he was dead. I just thought that they had just beaten him and then we're going to like force him to go down and fight in the blood ring. But that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. It does not. Nor should like the majority of things that are happening in this film. So almost immediately after he's killed, his wife goes to find Max because they used to be an item. And she thinks that Max will be able to help her find out where her husband's gone. And his response is basically, "No, he'll show up sooner or later." It's like that's it. He's just like, "No, I'm going to shoo you off because that's a good idea." Max is also just I wouldn't really say scum, but like he's a rather depressing character because when his mob boss guy comes and gets disappointed in him for doing a shitty job, for the work he did, he's like, I'm still going to pay you because I know that you're going to be back, because he makes the comment about that or else you'll be back in the gutter begging for your next drink if he doesn't agree, to throw the next fight.
Yeah, but that's kind of what he's already doing, though.
Yeah. Well, I think what they're saying is like he's getting paid enough money to buy alcohol for the next 7 days. If he doesn't agree to have a fight lined up within that period of time, once he's out of the money and he's aching just like, a junkie for a fix, then he's going to come crawling back being like, "Yeah, I'll throw another fight for you. You got the money, right?"
I suppose that makes sense in a stupid kind of way.
We are talking about the world of Max Rivers. So, it's just like the weird thing about this film is there's half the film that seems to make sense. And then they just bog it down with a whole bunch of needless scenes.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a version of this film that isn't terrible. I mean, yeah. I think, like, if they had just stuck to the kickboxing stuff, I think that would have been, like, still bad, but entertaining. But then there's, like, we're jumping way ahead, but at one point our main character is running around with an AK-47 shooting people, and you're just like, what the fuck happened to this movie?
I don't. I mean, but it's so, like, in the same way, it's not a labor of love film. It's not one of those that goes off the rail because somebody's like, oh man, I've got a design for this, and like the person's crazy. Like, somebody had a script somewhere and they're like, hey, Dale, listen, we got the thing that's going to make you the next Stallone. or the next, I guess at the time, it was the 90s, the next Dolph Lundgren or Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a Bloodsport ripoff, right? Like, pretty blatant.
I mean, in a way, but not exactly. Because Bloodsport is different.
I mean, Bloodsport's not horrible.
No, and I mean, the thing about something like Bloodsport or several of those Jean-Claude Van Damme movies is that they kept it simple. You know, Bloodsport's like, hey, you got to train, you got the tournament, you got a couple things that are going on outside that, but we're staying within 3 miles of the tournament at all times. You won the tournament with your special move. The end.
Hooray. But this movie...
But try to explain, like, Bloodsport in that same... Blood Ring in the same thing, and you're like, there's a guy, and he's throwing fights. And he dies because he doesn't throw a fight. And then his friend who stole his friend who used to be involved with his wife before they were married also is in a different country who's also throwing fights, where his wife is still, for some reason, she goes to try to find out why he's missing. He's still dead. So she goes on this crazy adventure, decides to bring this guy into it. And then it just gets crazier and crazier. And you're like, wait, what is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening? Because she decides on her own. She's like, you're not going to help me right now. Then I need to go straight to the source. I need to go to this random building that I shouldn't know even exists and show up and say, I need to look for this person. I'm his wife. And it's like, I don't think anyone would ever let you in if they've got any shading goings on like they do here.
Yeah, but it doesn't, like, because she goes there and, like, they kidnap her, basically.
Well, I think it's one of those where they're grabbing her because they're going to go kill her somewhere.
I guess, yeah.
And that's where we get introduced to Stevens, who Stevens is probably one of my favorite main characters.
Yeah, the only good character in this thing, maybe you could argue.
Just because his acting direction was, hey, Stevens, I guess the actor's name is Jim Gaines, so he's probably like, hey, Jim, you're not being picked up on the mics at all. Is there any chance that you can be louder and act like you're freaking out on PCP every scene? Okay, action. And so here's a sample. Like, just imagine that the director saying that and then going straight into this.
Shh. Quiet. Now, you will get to see your husband if you keep quiet and cooperate. Okay?
Now you're taking me.
I said quiet! God damn it! Now, you don't want me.
Okay, so what happens at the very end is that he starts to get high. Like, literally just starts doing coke in the car after he yells at her, does coke, turns back to basically point his finger at her, and in that period of time she's pulled out pepper spray and sprays everyone in the car and escapes. She escapes by hiding in garbage.
It's brilliant. She's the smartest character in the movie. She beats all of these guys. They got nothing on her.
Except for her issue is to what's it called? She decides to go to Max And the reason she goes to Max is as she was running away and before she hid in the garbage, she got shot. And it's just like, it's weird too, because like the guy stops and does that like 80s, 90s, I'm going to put my legs as far apart as I can while I get into a stance and shoot, and then just smiles at her. Like he's like, I hit you. It's like, dude, if you're any good at your job, follow up. You've got a 6-shooter. You fired 1 bullet. Why are you so excited?
It's the Jim Murtaugh, right? The stop, stand still, move your head. It's that Lethal Weapon reference.
It's also the tactic done by people who suck at duck hunt. So winging a person to them is considered the greatest thing. Like, he doesn't shoot her like in the back, like it grazes her arm, and he's like, "All right, I did it."
Yeah, well, we can't kill her yet because we need her to get Max involved. Even though the story could have very easily gotten Max involved by just making him go fight in the tournament.
Like my brain's just hurting. Like trying to piece together why things happen the way they do.
I mean, because there's no answer. It's just things just happen.
There's no answers for like the majority of anything that happens here, especially concerning Max, and then unfortunately concerning Susan, because the woman who plays her, Andrea Lamatish, she seems like she's probably a nice person, but English is not her main language. And so sometimes you can't really tell what she's saying.
Nope.
Because it's basically, imagine a shriek that has an accent.
What would that sound like, Adrian?
I don't know. She's in a couple of these clips, so you listen to it and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. That makes sense. But I mean, she decides to go to Max. She's been shot again, just winged, not like life threatening, but she still decides, oh, I'm going to this guy who lives in like the scuzziest place on earth to patch me up. And sure enough, Max is like, oh, absolutely. I've got the stuff. I've got the things to sterilize, and I've got bedpans laying around so we can get this out. Like, she's like, I need your help. And he gets up and grabs like 5 different items, and there's like, and then you don't see him do the process. He just grabs everything, and then he's just wrapping up her arm.
Yeah, if one of my ex-girlfriends shows up at my door to get help with a gun wound, I would just be like, go to the hospital.
Oh,
what are you
I'm sorry.
doing
I'm
here?
sorry, Scott. Scott, do you mean your ex-girlfriend who married your best friend?
Yeah, especially. Yeah. I'd be like, go away. Go. I don't want you here. Go to the hospital.
Oh, it's just weird. Like, so she's talking about, oh, well, I need to try to get into this place because I know that they probably have files kept on all their employees and former employees, and I know that my husband's information is in there, so maybe you can find a lead. And Max is just like, oh, okay, that sounds great.
I'm in now.
And he goes. Sorry, just describing this next part is oh, hurts my brain. So he shows up at another of the like parking garage or building complexes and sees that there's a guy inside. So he finds a pillar and he decides, oh, I'm going to pull up my pants and show my sexy leg and seduce the night guard outside.
That's the fucking weirdest thing ever. And the weirdest part about it is that it works.
Yes, it works. And he goes up and he kicks the guy because, of course, kickboxing, so he has to knock the guy out that way. And I don't remember if I gave you this one. Did I give you the clip for this one?
For the kicking him, I don't think so.
For the sleep tight?
I don't think so.
Oh, man. So he does the form of a roundhouse kick to knock him out, looks down at the guy and goes, sleep tight, you horny bastard. And that's Max Rivers through the majority of the film, is that he's constantly throwing out these one-liners that I guess he wants them to catch on, but it's just apropos of nothing continually. That no one's talking in certain scenes. He beats somebody up, and then has a punchline to something that was never set up, really.
Do kickboxers shave their legs?
I don't know.
Because
Max Rivers does.
He had very, very smooth, soft, supple-looking legs. I would have been tricked by them.
Yep. It's just weird. It's just weird. I mean, him going in and like he's sneaking around and he's trying to do like little rolls, like little somersaults and everything to try to be stealth.
But and also he's a drunk.
Yes.
Let's not forget that.
But he's a drunk, which illustrates the next point of the fact that there's a guy who's in his office and just looks up at the security camera and he's like, somebody's out there. Just plain as day, there's Max running around to the camera, and you're like, this isn't working out very well. And so they go to corner Max when he gets to the files, and we get some more of this brilliant, scintillating dialogue.
Who are you? Why are you looking at this file?
What file? Oh, that. I'm not looking at no file, man. I'm just looking for a drink. I understand sometimes they keep a bottle in the file cabinet.
How would he know that?
Because he keeps a lot of bottles in a lot of filing cabinets.
So he just assumes that everyone on the planet, that's how he goes? Can you imagine if he gets an office job and it's just like, he's not doing any work, he's just checking all the cabinets? He's like, somebody's got to have a bottle somewhere around here.
There's a chance that he wasn't even lying. That he was just really looking for some booze.
There. He got to the file cabinet and he's like, okay, gotta find that file. Ooh, where's that bottle of booze?
I mean, there are many times where he says that he needs, he wakes up and is like, I need a drink. So I would not put it past him.
But at the same time, people know who he is. Because directly 30 seconds after that piece of conversation, we have this guy who runs to the top of the stairs in the room just to make this next declaration. So we don't have a clip, correct?
No.
Because it's literally 30 seconds after the previous part. The guy runs in for no other reason to say, I've seen him before. He claims to be a kickboxing master and cons people into betting on him and loses. And then the guy just walks back off. And you're like, oh, well.
Thanks, exposition, man.
We've seen that.
Except we already knew that fact.
Who are you explaining this to? Max, of course, tries to lure people in and then beats them up and then has another little one-liner.
Which one's this?
Workout.
Thanks for the workout, asshole.
Boom.
I don't know, Max. I don't know, if he... I don't know if he, if the actor thought, oh, this is going to be great, people will think this is fun, or, if Max is such a drunken idiot that, he believes that part of his life is a movie.
So... was anything gained from this scene?
No.
They didn't accomplish their objective. He just beat some people up, and then
he leaves.
Then he leaves. The end.
Because they try to chase him out, or they try to chase him out of the building, and he's running away. And Susan pulls up in a car. He jumps in the car, and he turns to her and he goes, how did you find me? And she goes, I don't know, just intuition.
Wait, but wasn't it her idea to come to this place?
Yeah, she mentioned it to him, but that she wasn't with him because she was still healing from getting shot.
But she knew where the building was because it was her idea.
And she picks him up and then she goes, hey, I thought of an idea. So my husband was here doing an illegal tournament. Maybe if we go there, we can get some answers. And Max ends up going, okay, sounds crazy to me. I don't understand why he's mugging so much when he says it. Again, it's one of those aspects where it's comedy that doesn't work, but you're not sure what the intention of that comedy was in the first place.
It's called being bad at acting. That's what it is.
And then it's just, I don't know. They're weird. Like, you get this weird feeling in the next scene that Susan and Max are getting closer. But, like, it's hard to explain because she constantly is talking about her husband the whole time, but she's also coming onto Max.
Yeah, which is like weird.
There's no explanation for why she's having this. We don't really get much explanation about the relationship or why, it fell apart. You're guessing because Max is a wino that it might have to do with his drinking problem, but it's not something that's really addressed in any direct context of the movie.
No, I mean, but that's par for the course with this film, right?
Exactly. Apparently, they're either terrible drivers or just very easy to follow because a whole bunch of henchmen have followed back to Max's place, and they break in to have a fight in which we get another, feels like it belongs in a different movie moment where the guy has a knife in his hand and Max kicks the hand and it ends up flying and does a perfect bullseye into a dartboard. Not something that they ever, not a camera trick they go back to at any other point.
It's just again, this is not a necessary scene. We've already established where the characters want to go. We know they want to go to South America to figure out what's going on with this thing. We don't need another let's beat up a bunch of guys scene. It's not necessary.
We don't need the scene after this, which cuts to the mob boss who killed Susan's husband is in a room where he says to another guy talking about Max, according to this report, he beat 2 of our top fighters. I understand that you're trying to say that, hey, he doesn't really suck. But at the same time, who is putting this report together? Max beat up these 2 guys and within 30 minutes, he's got a report on his desk so I see they were tailing him and then he kicked their asses.
Yeah, what is
wonderful. Keep up the good work.
What does the report say? What is it is it multi-pages long? Is it a detailed analysis of his fighting styles? It's probably just they fought him and he won. End of report.
But he says it like that too. Is the beautiful thing, just how he says it. It's so staccato because I'm trying to remember my lines, and that's how it feels anytime he's talking. You can see him, his eyes are searching. He's like, well, we should try to find out what this Max knows. You're like, okay, sure. I have no idea why you're obsessed with this guy trying to find out this stuff. Just send in any other movie, somebody would be like, call me the sniper. And then boom, Max is dead. Guess what? He's a drunk who's only good at close quarters combat. Get somebody to shoot him in the head. And you're done.
This is where the movie is all screwed up and overcomplicating itself because our antagonist and our protagonist have no conflict with each other at this point.
No.
Neither of them has anything the other one wants. There's nothing there. And literally the only thing you need to do to fix that is make it so the dude at the beginning got kidnapped instead of killed. And they forced him to come to this place. So then the wife comes to Max and is like, they have my husband. And that actually really happens. And then, okay, we need to go down here to save this guy. And along the way, we fall back in love. And then it's a weird love triangle.
It's so goddamn weird. So, like you said, they're together, but not together. They're not really explaining anything. And we reached this point where I guess Max is bottoming out, but it seems like a place that he's been a whole bunch of times while he's just trying to have a normal conversation with her. And we see just how shitty he is.
Oh, I am dry. Can I have a drink before breakfast?
Max, when are you going to quit the habit?
I guess I'll quit drinking when I find something to live for again.
That's your hero. Like that's your hero. That's a line that your hero says halfway through the film.
Also, he's now flown to South America to take part in this underground kickboxing tournament. It feels like you found something to live for, buddy.
No, you don't understand. He's just doing this, to help out his ex-girlfriend.
To win back the love of his ex-girlfriend who married his best friend who is now dead.
But he doesn't know that. Oh, man. It's in. They've got like their breakfast that they have. Like I couldn't figure out what it was. Like there's an egg over easy, half a loaf of bread, and some ham. Well, I don't know why that's something that catches my attention.
Yeah,
but that's what she offers him instead of the drink. Like that's her compromise. He's like, I need something to live for if I'm not going to drink. And she's like, here's this weird ass breakfast I made.
So
also, once again, the bad guys in this movie have the most amazing henchmen because they've been in town for like a day and already the henchmen have caught up with them in the random house that they're living in.
Yeah. And they still don't even really know why they're here. So the fact that the henchmen were able to find them when they're just kind of like wandering around the city is pretty impressive.
And like they don't attack at first because Max is just like, fuck your breakfast, and decides that he's going to go get himself something to drink. And this is one of the most bizarre parts of the movie. So I'm going to skip over it to save it for the ray of sunshine because it's just like they go on a tangent and you're like, this movie's not very long. Why did we spend 5 minutes on that?
Because there's nothing else here. There's nothing else here.
So he ends up going back where the house has been ransacked and everything. And Dale Cook decides that he's going to show us, how to that yell acting is the most true form of acting.
That was beautiful.
It's stirring.
How did he not win an award for this?
Because he's Dale Cook.
That's fair.
That's it.
Apollo didn't win too many awards.
Here's my favorite thing. He finds out she's missing, yells that, doesn't go to look for her.
He's gotta get some booze, man.
He's just like, okay, she's gone. That's whatever. And then I don't remember how he ends up tracking like certain people down and stuff like that, but he gets into the fight scene where he says, by the way, Diego, do you like scrambled eggs, before once again hitting him in the nuts with the lead pipe.
I mean, it wouldn't be Phantom Zone if we didn't get like one isn't enough anymore. We need two.
Yes. It's just, it's great, but it's also terrible. And this is when he agrees to fight for the underground mob boss in order to basically win Susan back. But they're going to hold on to her until the tournament's over as collateral.
Well, there we go. We finally have some stakes.
And because he's going to be fighting in this tournament, they decide that they're going to keep him locked up in the basement of the building, where there's these three guys of vague nationalities. Like, you can't tell. One of them, I want to say, is like from the Middle East. One of them's very much from the whitest part of the UK. And then the other one, I think, might be like some form of Spanish. And yet they all refer to Max as Gringo. It's not like it's not something that they address. But I do love this moment because after they call him that, he starts making fun of the guy who has a bottle of wine and then starts begging for the bottle of the wine. The guy comes over, he beats him up through the bars, takes like 10 swigs of the wine, and then just goes to town beating everybody up once he escapes. So like
he's like Drunken Master.
Yeah, he's like, well, no, I was going to say it's more like Popeye, except for he's going to die of cirrhosis.
I mean, Popeye's probably going to die too. All that spinach can't be good for you.
I doubt it. I mean, he's going to live a better life than Max.
Can't live on spinach alone, Adrian.
Like, he might be eating other things.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
He eats spinach for strength, right?
I mean, I don't want to have a Popeye debate with you, but I've never seen him eat anything else.
Do you know all there is about Popeye?
I do. I would consider a pop expert.
Would it be a Popeye expert? Yeah. You've seen expert. All the Popeyes cartoons?
Yeah, and the Robin Williams movie. Seen it all.
That movie's not that bad. I know that's a discussion for another time, but it's not as bad as I think people remember it to be.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
No, but it's a different sort of bad. And I mean, I know we don't really get into
Phantom
this a lot.
Material.
Well, no, but it's different because it's ambitious bad. Like somebody's got a lot of money. They've got a lot of creativity, and their ambition is driving things more than like the story and the characters. And so like from that aspect, it overtakes everything else. But like if you watch it from like a visual standpoint, that movie's insane. And like a good
that's
way.
Fair.
It's like it's gorgeous, and like that's what Robert Altman was able to get. And it's got a fantastic score by Harry Nilsson. And you can like online you can actually listen to like his demos to really appreciate like how good the music is in that movie. But everybody's just like, oh yeah, you know, it's Popeye, so no one cares. But anyways, back to drunken Dale Cook. It's ridiculous, like the way that they position him for things in the movie, because he gets out of like the one cell and then he goes to the cell where the guy's getting ready to basically rape Susan. And he walks into the room and then just like stands there for a minute before he does anything. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? This is the woman who you're coming to save. And you're just like, I'm not exactly sure what he's going to do. How do we know he's a bad guy? Let's give this a minute. Maybe he's not such a bad guy.
Yeah, this part was really strange.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. Not like the rest of the movie does, but if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, it's like so far the movie had not been very exploitative, and then it just does this little weird random thing for no reason. Yes,
it's weird. Like I said, it's like there's a whole bunch of little pieces in here that it doesn't make sense why, like, how they're tying it together, because they show a couple fights that Max has to participate in to be able to free Susan. And like there's a part where he gets knocked down by somebody, and so the guy who's at the ringside puts an Uzi in his face to be like, oh, you gotta keep on fighting. And it's like, we already know the stakes, so why are you paying a guy to be ringside with an Uzi? That seems we know that you're fixing fights, but now, maybe just be a little bit subtle about it. The other guy clearly doesn't have a guy with an Uzi in his corner, so
yeah, he wants to fight.
Yeah,
I guess
it's just, and like, I don't know if it's supposed to be connected to the tournament, but the main bad guy has like a stable of dudes who are just fighting, like outside. They're training as best they can, even though he's not exactly like really taken with it. And he makes a simple, statement, a declaration, if you will. And he makes it to Stevens, who naturally freaks the fuck out.
It's just the ideology one.
No, it's a piece of shit.
Oh.
Stevens, those aren't fighters. They're pieces of shit. Get them out of here! I want them out right now!
Once again, everyone's at like a 5, and Stevens is at 24.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old hide your bad acting through yelling.
No, it doesn't. it heightens it. It doesn't hide it. It heightens it.
I'm not saying it's a good strategy. I'm just saying it's a strategy.
Oh, God. It's just... And then the movie decides to double down on having another escape attempt that has a triple nut shot. One after another after another.
Got to get those in.
And then finally, at like minute 46 in the film, Susan finds out that her husband's dead. Just finally. Aww. Like to me, it was a relief. It's like, everything you've been doing has been for naught.
I feel like they had to do that because she's about to bone the other dude, and we have to make sure we know that he's dead before we let them hook up.
Yeah, sure. If we're going by the logic of the film, but this is also a film where, like, in a minute after this, somebody says, "Tell me the truth, or I'll break your face," and then has somebody knock the cocaine out of Steven's hand and just leaves him in the parking lot, going, "No!" and putting his nose to the ground, trying to sniff up as much cocaine as he can.
Yeah, well, as you do. It's normal.
Yeah. So, like, one of the next part's one of my favorites because Max has gotten away from some guys, is casually walking down the street, having escaped bad guys, casually walking down the street, stops at a house to look inside it. Sure enough, when you know, the other bad guys are inside the house. To which one of the guys who's guarding the place comes outside to ask him why he's looking into the windows.
Make one false move, Yankee, and you'll die. Why are you spying on us?
I'm not spying, man. I thought this house is for sale.
Don't give me that bullshit. You're spying.
Yes.
And you hear it at the end there, a punch.
He's not. Max is just like, well, shit, my one tactic. I should just bold-faced lie about something that no one's ever going to believe.
I'm surprised you didn't say that some people hide drinks on their windowsills.
I'm just looking for a drink. Somebody said they kept a drink in the cellar. I've never been to this country before, and someone gave me this information last night. Oh. It's just, like, Max is just weird how, like, this house scene is emblematic of everything that's in the movie. He's just walking down the street, and then there the bad guys are. Just conveniently so they can move everything forward.
Yeah, because they want the movie to move forward, but they also want to take the time to do all this bullshit stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah. At the same time, while he knocks this guy outside in the front, the people inside don't know what's going on, and one of them stops in the middle and ends up saying, "Max is out there. I can feel it. He and I think alike." And you're just like, what? What? How? You're in a random house away from where you know this guy was. Why would you think he'd be outside it? And what makes you think that the two of you think the same?
It was the script. The script said that they did.
The script is terrible. It's terrible. So Max is able to fight off these guys. He ends up teaming back up with Susan. And instead of, like, taking the fight to them or just getting out of the country, Max decides, you know what? My drinking is causing lots of problems. I need to get help. So they go to, like, just the middle of the forest, it looks like. And he makes the declaration, I need to get into shape. I need to get this poison out of me. This alcohol. And literally, I'm just like, all right, sure. I don't understand why now, after being beat up for the 10th time and running away, that you're like, oh, you know, I might need to go to a few hundred AA meetings when I get back.
Hey, Adrian, why don't they just leave?
That's what I said. That's what I said. Why do they need to have one of the worst training montages of all time?
Just go home. You found out that the husband's dead. There's no reason to be here anymore.
In the middle of the training montage, they go to a shot of Susan on a rope swing, and then the rope swing breaks, and then they just laugh.
Well, you got to show their bonding. See, they're getting over their past. They're starting to come together.
And then they bone by the fire.
Yeah, of course.
In one of the most awkward sex scenes of all time. Like, they try super hard not to show anything. And they have a shot that's basically of like the top of their bellies / lower rib cages coming together, and then their skin pressing against each other and then pulling back. And like that's their eroticism, is like, oh, you can see the fire between this hole where their bodies are not touching at this moment.
Is that not how people normally shoot this stuff? I wouldn't know.
No. It's just really weird because they want to highlight that they're having sex, but at the same time it's like, oh, we can't show any part of anybody's body, so we're just gonna, push these two mounds together and hope that people think it looks like flesh on flesh.
Yeah.
Yep. Max decides that directly after having sex the next morning, the best thing to do is to go to a military surplus jacket store and get aviator glasses as well as a trucker hat.
But what does he not get though? Doesn't get any booze.
Well, I mean, that's not the issue he has. The issue that he has is that he makes sure to put on this entire outfit, and then 2 seconds later, the bad guys know it's him. That's why he passed him.
Well, okay. But look, it's character growth. I'm pointing out the character growth here.
It doesn't really matter. No. So he's forced to fight again. So it's just like it's weird. They've got another fight where, like, you see, I don't know like the rules of any of the fights they have. So like it's hard to tell like what's supposed to be considered legal, what's supposed to be considered illegal, who's doing good at a different point. So, and there's just no urgency to any of the fights. The choreography's not really good.
No,
they don't really care while it's taking place.
Yeah, I guess that's the one thing we really didn't talk about was that, like, on top of this being a convoluted mess of a plot, the action is boring.
Yes,
it's really boring.
Yep, it's just it's constantly and tediously boring. It's just,
well, yeah. I mean, part of it is just the lack of stakes, right? There's no clear.
Yeah.
Like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why is there conflict between these characters? It doesn't make any sense.
If anything, the bad guys are more successful than the good guys because the bad guys are always able to find the good guys, and then the good guy is barely effective.
Yeah, I mean, if the bad guy's goal is to make them fight in the ring, they won.
Yep. It's it's terrible. I mean, Stevens ends up getting killed Wolverine style, so.
Yeah, poor Steven. He was such a good
coke fiend.
Yes. I was gonna say henchman, but that would have been a lie.
That's what he was. And then Susan gets captured again, and Max gets captured again. And one of my favorite little things about the movie is there's a whole bunch of parts where you hear dialogue in the background that you're not necessarily supposed to see or like hear or pay attention. So like any of the scenes where Max in I guess jail, you want to call it, even though it's the bad guys who have him. There's it's just that there's those three guys that I was talking about before, and like you're given pieces of all their conversations that add up to nothing. And so like when you see him after she's been captured again, this guy looks at everybody, he's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna see her again. And like, but they focus on the dialogue more than anything else that's going on. It's like, wait, is this the end of a joke that they said the first time? Or I don't know why this is what we're paying attention to. And it's bad.
Yeah.
Everything.
I have no idea. I have no idea at this point. Like, this is when the movie really just lost me.
Yeah. And because like you mentioned, he's got the guns all of a sudden, and he's got the grenade that he's tossing around. And it's a movie that was focusing primarily on like kickboxing earlier, and then it just kind of jettisons that out of the window.
Yeah, now he's literally just an action hero doing all this stuff, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't need to be here. Why do this? Just keep it in the ring. The name of the movie is Blood Ring. Keep it in the blood ring.
Well, he beats up all these guys, and he's able to ascertain the fact that the bad guy, who for only like the third time in the movie we find out his name, which is Carulio, but everybody pronounces like Coolio. I didn't realize what his name was for part of the movie. Like, I thought they were just big assholes and agreeing with him and like, okay, Coolio. But everyone's like, okay, Carulio, whatever you say. So that doesn't work the same.
I think it's part of the fact that, like you said, none of these people are English as a first language speakers.
Yes, except for Dale Cook, who was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes, of course.
So I don't have anything bad to say against Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm just saying it's very much a place where people don't have a giant foreign accent.
I've been to Tulsa once. I could say some bad things about Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, let's not. We're not taking down Tulsa at the time. We're taking down this movie.
All right.
So once again, because Max is an idiot, sober or drunk, doesn't matter. He ends up getting lured by Carulio to come get in a one-on-one fight with him for, I guess, Susan. That they don't really mention it.
I don't know, because earlier, after one of his other fights, he the main bad guy made a deal with someone to force their best fighters to fight everyone, right?
Yeah.
But that's not this.
No, it's not. Because it's him.
He's just fighting the guy.
Yeah. And he's got her suspended, and he has wrapped, as Scott was alluding to in the very beginning of the episode, that he's wrapped everything in barbed wire. So he's like, come, get in.
Get
and
it.
I guess that's
it's
the blood ring.
It's the blood ring. Get it?
And as all good bad guys are, he has a little speech that he basically gives for his ideology.
Max, welcome. I've been waiting a long time to meet my equal. You and I are the same, Max. We live for the kill.
No, Carulio, we're not the same. You enjoy the killing, like an animal. I only kill if I have to.
In the end, it's all the same. Blood is spilled. Bodies are mutilated. Men are killed.
You're a sick man. Let the girl go, and we'll get out of here.
What the fuck? What the fuck? First of all, you had your main character admit that he's totally okay with killing people if he deems it's right.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, this is the only way out of the situation. Like, if I feel like I should kill a man, I should kill a man.
The interesting,
even though I'm going to give you a hard time for saying that you're just killing people for fun.
The interesting thing to me when you hear that clip, because it's only audio, you can hear where the cuts are still, because the mix is so bad
abrupt
that the audio shifts really abruptly every time they cut. So you can hear them. It's awful.
Yes. The funny thing about Susan is half her lines feel like they're in an echo chamber, almost like they're like, okay, we need to do ADR work, but we don't really have enough money for an actual ADR place, so we're going to turn this room into an ADR space.
Yeah, but it has no soundproofing.
Yeah. And they realized, oh man, you're just a terrible actress. It's not whatever was happening on the set that day. It's just, that's how you sound.
Yep. And she's like, he's in the middle of a conversation with the main bad guy about how it's all going to end in death. And then Susan comes in to say, he's going to kill you. Thanks, Susan. We got it. We were there.
And then he almost kills him. The bad guy just starts whipping his ass. And you're like, And it started to dawn on me. I'm like, now that I think about it, save for maybe one instance, at least 75% of the fights that he gets in, he dies. Like, he should be dead. Everyone kicks his ass. Yeah. Everyone kicks his ass. And Carulio, like, is just continually kicking his ass. And I was like, what are they going to do? And then it's like, conveniently, I tripped you on this thing because you thought I was over here. Ha ha ha. And you're like, how did you get the second wind? That's not how any of this works.
Well, don't forget the Deus Ex Susan when she swings in from her.
Oh, dear God.
She's dangling on a rope, like her hands tied above her head, and she like swings from where she's hanging to kick Coolio in the back.
Yes, which leans him. Yeah. And so they end up beating him with his own barbed wire, and it's just,
it's nonsense. Like, it does, like, why were they fighting? I don't understand.
Not only is it nonsense, but then after he kills him, he looks down at him. He looks down at Carulio and he says, "You were right about one thing, Carulio. You have met your match." And I was like, no, no. Did
he say that?
Yes. He said that after he beats him up. That's what he said. He stops before exiting the ring and getting Susan. Before he saves the girl, he stops and looks down at the guy's body and says, "You were right about one thing, Carulio. You have met your match. Now I got to go save her."
Man's got his priorities. Got to get your quips in. If you take too long with the quips, like, it feels kind of weird. So you just got to get them in.
Yeah. So he goes to grab Susan, and turns out, guess what? Carulio's not really dead.
No.
He's still in the ring. And so Max decides, you know what I should do? I should end up going back to fighting him. And the movie decides to end on a freeze frame mid-kick.
I don't... Maybe Blood Ring 2 will answer this exciting question about what happened.
I don't know. Like, I don't know why you spend all that time in like 8 to 9 different like plots with everything going on and being like, oh yeah, this is what we're gonna do. And you're like, no. Don't just end it. Like, it's not a cliffhanger.
No.
We saw the guy died and you brought him back, and he should have like just swung forward and like kicked the guy's head off. I would have been fine with that.
Yeah, that'd been great.
You're like, we're gonna sell this as a package deal. No. Those people are also probably winos like Max.
Yeah. So this is like, it's such a weird movie.
It's so weird. There's so many bad decisions, and like, there's so many close-ups that are unneeded. There's so many scenes where like the angles that they're choosing, it feels like they're trying to be arty, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
It's a total mess. It's one thing to make a bad movie. It's another thing to seemingly make every single improper decision. And I feel like that's what this movie does. Like, everywhere, like even just like within the scenes, like it's not just that the movie's cheap looking. The timing is all off, like, constantly. Like, people aren't hitting their spots when they should. And I guess they didn't have time to do more takes. So like the pace, like the timing of the scenes is weird. The editing always seems just like a frame or too slow. Like, you should have cut a little sooner here, or the opposite happens where you held for way too long here when you shouldn't have. It's just a mess.
Basically. So I think we've reached the voting point. Scott, after that impassioned remark, what are you voting?
It's guilty. It's guilty. I had some fun with this movie. It made me laugh a few times, but this is a bad movie. It's really bad.
I want to say not guilty. Just
what is wrong with you?
I'm saying, like, it's the type of thing that would be at like a Video Vortex, at like in an Alamo or different theaters. Somebody that does like VHS throwback specials. This is one of those films that you find and you're like, holy shit, what is going on in this movie?
Yeah, but I did not have as much fun with it as you did. I really didn't. Like, there were a few parts that I liked, but for most of it, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? And not in a fun, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I don't know. So we're split on this one. we'll put the poll up tomorrow on if you guys feel that it should be guilty or not guilty. Just vote. It's a 50-50 chance. So if you're not sure about the movie, just go with your gut feeling. And we'll leave that up till the next episode, and then we'll see where we're at. If we don't have an answer, then we will have our guests be the deciding vote, just to put them in a very awkward position about a movie that they've never
definitely haven't heard of.
So
definitely have not heard of.
It'll be interesting. I do have a ray of sunshine. Do you have a ray of sunshine?
No, I don't.
Aww.
Nothing that we hadn't talked about already.
Well, there was the one part that I skipped over.
Yeah,
which is my favorite scene. When
I honestly don't remember this scene at all.
It's because they kidnapped Susan for like the second or third time, and he's been driving. I mean, he drove somewhere because it's clearly like not just outside the building, but far enough away that he's able to walk into a store, buy liquor in the morning, and on the way back from buying the liquor, he gets hassled from, I guess they're supposed to be street toughs, but they look like in their late 40s, early 50s, a couple of them. Like the basketball guys. Do you remember them?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And he's got the whole part where he's holding the bottle of wine and he has to beat them all up so that he can get the wine back, and then finishes by saying, the things a guy has to do these days to get a drink. And then it just ends. Like the whole scene's about 5 minutes long, and it's just so you can have this one fight scene that doesn't include anything else.
Yeah, that's like a perfect microcosm of the entire movie.
Yes. But at the same time, like everything about it is purely 80s. Like how the bad guys are dressed and everything. It's just, it's strangely fantastic. So, I mean, that's my defense. I mean, there's films like this that not everyone will like, but I think there's plenty of people who have like a VHS type of movie like this that they latch onto, and they're like, I don't care what anybody else says. I've got to hold on to this because it's brought me too much joy.
I just think there are so much better examples of that than this crappy movie.
Yeah, there are, but that's what I'm saying is that like different movies will speak to different people on different levels. So, give it a chance, give it a try. You don't have to like it. We'll find out next week what ends up happening with the fate of it. We do want to confirm to follow up on the last episode that we did, we're seeing about 5 or 6 people who have officially confirmed for the next couple months. So we will have a whole bunch of female guests for like at least 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
So
it's very exciting.
Yes. We heard like instant replies from half the people because I sent out a lot to a ton of them and heard back like right away from several of them, and I was like, okay, that's awesome. That's cool. That makes me feel good. We're trying to work to get one of them to be on next Thursday. If something doesn't happen, then much to Scott's either joy or chagrin, we'll make sure to have a movie added in at the last minute if we can't get that person in. But I'm very excited for the next couple months.
Yeah, and I think most importantly, we will have a tie-breaking vote because when it's just the two of us and we split like we did today, we kind of panic.
Yeah, no, we'll get it together. We'll find a way. We'll find a way.
Yeah,
it'll work out. Well, Scott, where can they find you online?
I can be found on Twitter at ScottDaily85. That's DALY. And also at dailyplanetfilms.com, where all my podcasts, including this one, can be found.
Yay. And I can be found on Twitter at Adrian Torres. At the same time, I'm on, that's the main one. If you want to, send, what I was going to say is if you want to send a message to the Phantom Zoned, which is Phantom_zoned ED.
Yeah.
If you want to send us a message with like the types of movies that you would want us to cover, or you have a title that you don't think we've ever heard of that's absolutely atrocious, let us know. I've had a couple friends online on Twitter who were talking about a movie they just seen recently, and somebody was like, "Oh, what is that? What is that movie?" And they were like, "Oh, it's a movie from a long time ago, but it's absolutely terrible. You don't want to watch it." And like I was scrolling through my timeline and saw it, and I'm like, "Ooh, my ears were burning. Someone's talking about a terrible movie. How can I find this film?" So I mean, if you have suggestions, you can definitely send it to that. If you want to read my stuff, you can go on to boomhowdy.com. I've got several reviews that are getting ready to release on there. I'm going to be seeing Thor at a critic screening in a couple days, so I'll have that review up. We just had Adam Green come through town with his Victor Crowley Rolling Road show, and so I'll be writing up a little thing about the event and the movie itself, which is actually a lot of fun, which is surprising to say.
Awesome. Can't wait to read that.
Yeah. Well, until next time, there we go. There's a timer.
That's my phone making a noise because I accidentally pressed
time.
the button.
That's it, everybody.
That's a great way to end.
Saying?
That's Siri's
What's Siri
yelling at
saying?
me.
What's she say?
She's saying, I'm not sure I understand.
Well, on that note, I don't understand. Good night.
And the clouds go away, and the tears clear your eyes, and you can see the day. I believe in happy endings, no matter where the story's taken me. When the storm is shaking me, I somehow keep pretending that I hear a friend sing a song that will awaken me. I go on